Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb. I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 27 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Earning Green by Turning Green, Breweries Can Gain Efficiency Through Better Environmental Practices, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted, but if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Virginia SBDC Craft Beverage Assistance Program Manager, Chris Van Orden.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this conversation about strategies and resources available to breweries looking to sharpen their operations in an environmentally friendly way. As Sheila said, my name is Chris Van Orden. I'm the manager of the Craft Beverage Program at the Virginia SBDC. The Craft Beverage Assistance Program is designed to provide industry-specific technical assistance to Virginia's craft beverage sector. So today's program is going to be a free-flowing conversation about the ways that breweries can achieve efficiencies through green practices. We'll leave some time at the end for questions and answers. But that said, if you do have questions, please feel free to add them in the Q&A box. If we can answer them in real time, great. Otherwise, we'll save them towards the end. And again, please use the question and answer function rather than comments. It's the best way for us to actually be able to see them. So now I'm happy to introduce Meghann Quinn, who is the manager of the Office of Pollution Prevention at the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, OPP, DEQ. We'll get there. The Office of Pollution Prevention promotes green practices that go beyond regulatory requirements through programs including Virginia Environmental Excellence Program, Virginia Green and Governor's Environmental Excellence Awards. You'll hear all about these in just a minute, but for now, I'd just like to say welcome, Meghann, and thank you for your time and expertise.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we dig in, can you give our audience a sense of the mission and focus of DEQ? How might breweries typically interact with DEQ? What do they think of when DEQ conversations happen?
So DEQ's mission is to protect and enhance the Commonwealth's environment. And, our mission is, part of our vision is for Virginians to enjoy cleaner water, better quality air, and more productive use of land. So we do that through administering laws and regulations, mostly related to air quality, water supply, renewable energy, and land protection. We have about 800 employees across the Commonwealth working out of 6 regional offices, as well as our central office in Richmond. And mainly when people hear about DEQ, they're talking about permits or monitoring or inspections and enforcing the law. That is not what my office does. We are a non-regulatory office that helps different organizations throughout the Commonwealth, as well as citizens, reduce their environmental impact. So we're looking for ways to get from point A to point B with less environmental waste. And when I talk about environmental waste, a lot of people hear just the waste part, but really it could be something as simple as when you're lighting a room that no one is in. That's an environmental waste because you're using energy that you're not getting anything out of it. So when breweries interact with us, it's a little different because we're the non-regulatory side. There are some ways that breweries could interact with DEQ on a more regulatory side. Some of that is as simple as universal waste, which is the management of things like mercury containing lamps or aerosol cans. There are some regulations around that. Now, those are not things that DEQ is typically going out and looking for at breweries, but there are some regulations around those. Some of the really large breweries, and I'm talking about like millions of barrels per year breweries, they could have things like permits on their fuel burning equipment or fabric filters required for grain handling, some permitting around tanks and things. So you know what, if you get real big, it can get more into the regulatory area, but we're going to stick it. I'm much more comfortable talking about the non-regulatory side. If anyone does have questions about some of the universal waste stuff, I can definitely point them in the right direction. But I'd rather talk about what we can do to reduce the environmental impact.
That's great. Yeah, I know a webinar on all the ins and outs of regulations may not be the most exciting. This is a more fun and proactive conversation, from my perspective, at least. I think it's not, it's important to be on the right side of regulations, but this is more about this sort of comfortable, forward-leaning side, right? We're not talking about getting anybody in trouble here. We're talking about,
and that's my whole office is non-regulatory. So if we go in somewhere, we are not qualified to say like, that's wrong, that's right. We're not coming back and pointing anything out. People don't get inspections after we come. It's they're very non-regulatory.
That's great. Well, so then I guess let's talk about your office, the Office of Pollution Prevention. What are some of the core programs that you administer? We're talking industry agnostic for now. We'll get into the beer in just a moment, but what does OPP do?
Yeah, so to encourage people to reduce their environmental footprint, we provide some guidance on how to do that, some technical assistance on doing it, and then a lot of recognition for those who do put these programs into place. And the recognition serves two things. One, to help elevate the people who have done it, but then also those people serve as a model for others within their industries or just other people that have similar programs. So one of the programs that we run is the Virginia Environmental Excellence Program. And there are two ways to participate in that. There's an environmental management system track for facilities that have implemented that. And we call it an EMS. It's basically if you have a system in place that looks at your environmental impacts and puts things in place to lower the impact. There's also a branch of that doesn't require an environmental management system, and it just provides recognition to facilities that have embraced sustainability and have really geared their operations around how to make their business sustainable. We also have a program called BIES, which is really just about sharing information about energy efficiency and how to find rebate information for energy efficiency. We run the Governor's Environmental Excellence Awards as well, which is a joint program between DEQ and DCR, which is the Department of Recreation and Conservation. And those awards recognize innovative and successful projects in a multitude of categories. We have had some breweries win in the past. It is a pretty competitive awards program, but it's a pretty big honor as well. Let's talk about Virginia Green last, but we do also have a few things that we just do internally for the state as far as, helping other state agencies with their sustainability efforts and running our own environmental management system to make sure that we're not just asking other people to do this. We're looking at how we interact with the environment and what we can do to lessen our impacts as well. And then our Virginia Green program is our program for the tourism industry. It started as a program just for hotels, looking at how they were interacting with the environment, and it's morphed from there into tourism wide, and we include breweries within the tourism window. And when the program started, we realized that DEQ couldn't really do this on our own. Like, we have a part of it, we know how to help facilities reduce their environmental impact, but it's not just that. We need them to then be able to communicate what they're doing to potential clients and people coming. So we work with the Virginia Tourism Corporation, which is the Virginia is for Lovers group, to help promote promote facilities that become Virginia Green members. So it's a good partnership there. And there are a few other partners in the program as well.
That's great. That's a lot. And obviously a lot of those programs apply to breweries regardless, right? So breweries can interact already, but you've now started having some programs that are tailored specifically to craft breweries, looking at some of the environmental kind of demands of the industry. Can you describe what OPP is doing working with craft breweries right now?
Yeah, so EPA has specific sectors that they kind of concentrate, not every state calls their Office of Pollution Prevention, but there are similar offices throughout the country. Um, and EPA tries to focus a little bit what those offices are working on. And one of the focuses over the last few years has been food and beverage manufacturing. So a number of other states across the country are working with their breweries as well, which makes it, that we can work together with partners across the country, gives us a big resource to help when we're reaching out to different breweries, that it's not just us in our office. We have counterparts throughout the country that have done similar work. So we have people that we can go to with questions if a brewery comes to us with questions. So what we've been doing with those, we've grouped it under our Virginia Green program, since breweries had been included in that program since prior to the specific outreach, but we're going a little further with the outreach to breweries. If they're willing to participate in like an on-site pollution prevention assessment, where we can come on site and kind of walk through their process with them and kind of highlight some things that we see. We can, and a lot of times, we learn things from the brewery as well. We can share that with other breweries. And then once they get through that process, we'll actually help them become a Virginia Green member. Right now, the Virginia Green membership program is run by a nonprofit. So it's there's a small fee to join the program. So that's something that's waived when they go through the audit program. And then we'll write up a little report that has some highlights what they're doing well, gives them some suggestions. And if there's anything within that report that they'd like some more information on, we're happy to help them and like work with that further. And then they get a little certificate showing that, it's something that they're interested in, that they've committed this time to put into the program.
That's great. Yeah. It is nice to have that sector specific knowledge. I feel like that is the thing that I probably say every single month in one of these webinars. We talk about, trying to bring in experts, not just with things that are valuable, but that understand the industry to an extent. And the fact that you have this focus on the brewing industry in particular is great. It's a very resource intensive field, and I think it's really helpful to be able to go in and just understand the demands of brewing as compared to other types of manufacturing. It's really interesting. And yeah, so those audits, if somebody's interested in one of those, they just reach out to your office to kind of talk through what that would look like, and they can just arrange that and somebody can come out and check out the processes.
Yep. And we like to say that the audits are free to them, because if it's not a free audit, it's we're paying for it. But it's a free resource to the breweries. And to feed off what you had just mentioned about it being sector specific, I do think that, and maybe just as someone who visits these establishments myself, that they can really benefit from advertising some of their green efforts to their clientele. And I think that's something that, a normal manufacturer does to a smaller extent, or does a little differently, but this is something that, the people that come can really see that it's something that the brewery cares about. So I can talk a little bit about some of the things that we point out frequently in audits. But one of the things I will mention that we don't typically think of recycling as pollution prevention, because it kind of deals with it when it gets to the end of the stream rather than reducing it before it's created. But having the recycling system and everything in place is one way to really communicate with people coming to a brewery that it's something that your brewery cares about. So it is something that we're totally willing. It's a question that I think we did about 10 audits last year. It's something that came up at each of them, and we can talk through a little bit of how the best signage is and what the best way to set up your cans and your bins are to reduce contamination, because you'll know at the end of the night, sometimes it was like, that was supposed to be a recycling bin, but it's full of trash. So now we just have 2 trash cans. So there are some things that, some easy things that you can put in place to help that. Now, when you're dealing with people at the end of a Saturday night, it's probably a little challenging to get things in the right bin, because it's always a little challenging to get things in the right bin. But there are certain things you can do to make it just a little more streamlined. So when I go over some of the tips that we would normally do, I'm not going to highlight the recycling stuff, but that is definitely something that when people are interested in, we can help. And sometimes it's not only on the front end, they're looking for ways to divert some of their waste materials from the brewing process. And, we've seen most of the breweries we've been to at this point are already, taking their spent grains to farms, and like that's a big one. But then they're left with all these plastic bags, and how do you manage those? So those are also things that we can work with. But one of the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest thing to do is just tracking your energy and water usage. And it sounds simple, and it can be a little tedious at times, but it's really going to be what shows you when something is off. Like if you're not looking at it and seeing like, oh, this is our normal, what happens year to year, or like when we brew this beer, this is what happens. Like that's going to be your first indication, and an easy indication of if you have an issue with your equipment, or if there's a leak somewhere, you can see that in that tracking. And then, some other of the easier, quicker payback things are just making sure that your lines and tanks are insulated, that equipment's not leaking. Any reuse of rinse water that you can use is great. And we can also touch on lighting. That one does it's not brewery specific, but it's definitely a way to save money. The payback period, if you have some older lighting, it could be a really short payback period. Curtains on walk-ins is another easy one that, I know it can be annoying having to go in and out of the curtain, but it really does. It's a much more efficient way. And then I will just throw in some native plants, which also, it's just, they require a lot less maintenance and less watering, and they can look really pretty, and you can make it into a little learning area. That one might just be more of a personal thing for me that I want to encourage you. But then, some of the bigger things could just be more energy efficient equipment, whether it's heat recovery, tracking your wastewater, the type of refrigerant you're using, if you're using clean in place systems. And then it could go up to, we can talk about CO2 recapture. We do have, I think it's now 2 breweries in the Commonwealth that are working on capturing their carbon emissions. One of the ones that we've worked with is Port City, and I'm not taking any responsibility for their project. They went off and did this on their own, but the way that they worked it out is it's a 3-year payback period for the project that they're implementing, which is amazing. And then we can look at renewable energy or green roofs and bioswales, but some of it is led by what the brewery is most interested in, because if they're not interested in doing it, it's a moot point. But we are willing to help them find as much information and set things up for what they are interested in.
That's great. I mean, just the fact that you're walking into this many breweries, and speaking with your colleagues in other states, if you can identify the blind spots for breweries, some of these don't require a major outlay on the front end. It's just, hey, you can have a couple of months worth of investment, and all of a sudden you're saving money, never mind all the benefits and the marketing angle for that. I think that's great. And I'll say anybody, I should, before I get to this, I also love the point that you opened, and I almost interrupted you to say, I love the what gets measured gets managed perspective. Your wastewater output, energy usage, all of that stuff. You might look at the end of the month like, man, we got slammed on our energy bills, and it's not even a hot or cold month. Where are we getting hammered? And that's how you might realize that your cold box has a crack in the insulation or something like that, and you're losing energy just like crazy. But until you manage, start measuring that, you have no way to remedy that, and you can put up with a lot of inefficiencies if you're not aware of them. So And I'll say, I think a lot of the things that you've identified are also in the Brewers Association's sustainability and energy guide. So I think that it's really, it's great that you guys are working on a lot of these issues and talking about how help advising companies about how to actually take advantage of them. So
I have two other quick examples that
yeah,
I like to talk about. And the one was from another state. There's a brewery in Pennsylvania, and granted, it does get a bit colder in Pennsylvania than it gets here in Virginia. But they were having a problem just keeping the brewery warm enough in the winter when they were working at just because it was a tall, not well insulated building. And, they spent a few $100s to put in one of those giant fans, and it dramatically reduced the energy use that they were using, just trying to keep it warm enough that they could work in the building. And I just, it's one of those things, it just seems like a pretty simple, you put in a fan, it's not high tech, but it really made a big difference in their energy consumption. And then we had another Virginia brewery that instead of using pesticides, because they were having to keep rodent populations down, they had cats. And I'm allergic to cats, but I loved that idea that they were really just reducing the amount of chemicals that they were using, and chemicals that could impact the environment. So I thought that I don't know, I loved that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Brewery cats. I think there's a book of brewery cats that are out there. They're lovely. I could name a few in my life. And yeah, I mean, for sure, right? I mean, there's lots of chemicals that go into the brewing process, cutting down on that. And obviously, breweries ideally are clean enough that you can eat off the floor. So it's not great to have really intensive herbicides or pesticides kicking around too, where a lot can go wrong there. So yeah, reducing that, finding those ways to reduce friction. That's great. So of course, everybody, when they're looking at having to investigating additional expenses, taking on additional programs or whatever the case may be, there's always the question that comes to us in particular: are there any incentives? Are there any grants out there? Obviously, in the end, ideally these decisions are good both for the company's bottom line and also, having as part of an organization's mission. But are there any local, state, or federal incentives that breweries should be looking for when they're considering ways to green their facilities or processes?
So there are some state ones for energy efficiency that are mainly through Dominion. Dominion has some money that they commit to helping with energy efficiencies, and we have a relationship with Honeywell who works with that program. So anyone that has a dropped ceiling, which some breweries it is exposed vents, but a lot of times even if it's exposed in the brewery area, if they have any type of kitchen, it will be a drop ceiling where the vents are within the ceiling. And so getting a seal, getting those ducts looked at and sealed, that program is almost completely paid for by this program. But they also look at other things, they prefer to look at walk-in freezers, but they can look at some fridges, look at the gaskets around the doors. They have programs that can help with digital controls and make sure that the controls are set up properly. I mean, even a lot of people that have the ability to use the digital controls, they're not set to the highest level of efficiency wherever we're just turning down and turning up at the right times. And one of the other things that particular group can look at is compressed air. If your compressed air is at if it's a horsepower of less than 10, it's probably not really worth looking at. But as you get above that, there can be a lot of savings looking for leaks within the compressed air system. So I think those are the main ones that we can help people work with through Honeywell. And then there's a database of state and national programs that you can look for certain other grant and just rebate opportunities.
That's great. Yeah, the desired DSIRE database, right? That's great. It's just good to know what's out there. And it's always worth speaking with people within your specific county or locality.
Yes.
Sometimes there's little seams of money or incentives or tax rebates or whatever the case may be. There may be a project that you already want to do. It's worth asking, if you're connected to your economic development association or whatever that may be, just inquire. You can come to your local SBDC as well and say, hey, do you know anybody locally that's doing something like this? And if we've heard of something, we can plug you into it. But just raise your hand. Ideally you come out of the audit and you say, I've got these 5 things I want to do. We could see if there's anything that's out there. But most of these, as Meghann mentioned, do have relatively manageable, kind of horizons for paying it off, and after which you're seeing cost savings. So in the end, it's still a good investment regardless. But if there's ways to cushion the initial expense, all the better. So, well, that's great. So now there's sort of more on the promotion side about, the value to all this, because in addition to the bottom line, helping the environment, especially within the brewing industry as compared to a lot of other manufacturers, consumers tend to prefer or place a value on kind of efficiency, environmentally friendly businesses, or some companies that really hang their hat on that. And even if you're not yet, it could be a part of a marketing strategy. So to that end, as you mentioned, DEQ is partnered with the Virginia Green Travel Alliance. Can you share some details on the organization and some of the programs that they run that might apply to breweries?
Yeah, so the Virginia Green Travel Alliance was created to support the Virginia Green program and kind of be that nexus in the in-between between the DEQ side of it and some of the virginia.org side, as far as promoting that, that you've made this commitment to go green. So members who have, right now the VGTA does the application process for Virginia Green members. So when you apply to be a Virginia Green member, you get listed on their website. You also get some promotional materials that you can post at your facility. They put it on social media when anyone joins. And I think I am obviously familiar with the program, but like you probably would recognize the Virginia Green logo, that because it is in a lot of windows of a number of breweries and wineries and just places throughout town. So it's also listed, the members are listed on the virginia.org website. So when people go to that statewide tourism website, they can go in and search just for green options, and that only lists Virginia Green members. They also run an awards program every year, and they'll have like a top brewery of the year and then a whole bunch of like just Virginia Green partners recognized within each year. So that comes with an additional award and like a press release and like photo opportunities and just an additional opportunity to get to talk about what you're doing and promote that you kind of stand out from others doing similar things as you, because of this extra effort you've put into reducing your environmental footprint.
Yeah, that's great. Again, if these are things that you probably want to do for your business anyway, but if you're doing them, you may as well get a little bit of recognition for it. I fully encourage everyone to crow about it as much as possible. So another thing that's coming up is the Virginia Green Travel Conference in Virginia Beach. I think that's next month. Can you share some details on the event and how breweries might be able to work with DEQ to attend?
Sure. So the conference is going to take place at the Virginia Beach Convention Center, March 21st and 22nd. It opens with a tour on the morning of the 21st, and you get the choice between either going to the Brock Environmental Center or a boat ride out to see the wind turbines. So that's been a very popular, I think that's drawn in a number of people. The conference itself it's like 2 half days of sessions that cover everything from energy efficiency. We'll have someone there from Honeywell talking about the programs that I was referencing earlier. There's sessions on how to promote yourself as being green, and sessions on recycling and composting. We're also partnering this year with Keep Virginia Beautiful because it's their 70th anniversary. So there will be a lot of Keep Virginia Beautiful affiliates there. And I think the big news is that because DEQ is working specifically with breweries, we are able to provide some sponsorships for breweries to attend the conference for free. So if anyone would like to do that, please reach out to me and I can coordinate getting you attendance and registered for the conference with no charge to you.
That is wonderful. I hope you're hearing your email ping right now. People are rapidly Googling. Do you mind sharing your email address, or what's the best way to reach you on that front?
Sure. Would it be best can I put it in the chat?
Yeah, please do.
For people to see. Let me see if I can do that. And
See what you can do. If not,
I'm
we
not
can
sure.
we can find a way to share it after the fact. But
Yeah, I'm not sure I can do that. I have a lot of letters in my name. Oh, but it's on the screen. So it's Meghann, Meghann.Quinn, Quinn at deq.virginia.gov. Oh, here we go. Oh, here, I think I was just missing where I can do it.
yeah, but
And I'll send a link for the conference as well so that people can look up or see the conference website with all of the additional information on the conference as well.
great, thank you. Yeah, it is a great thing to be able to attend, and I'm sure that it's got a wonderful return for anybody who would want to attend. But if they can partner with you to get there, great. And I think, hopefully there will be people who take advantage of the audits. I think there's lots of value to get out of this. So you're going to have a lot of brewery visits, and in the near future, which is never a bad thing.
Certainly not complaining about that.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, hopefully people get a sense of some of the the types of programs and resources that are out there. Again, there's a huge array of environmental issues that breweries in particular should be focused on, and you may feel like you have a good handle on these things, but it's great to consult experts like Meghann and her colleagues to make sure you're doing everything possible, really covering your bases, because it can only be a good thing on the financial front, on the environmental front, and the publicity front. So please build this into your business. So really appreciate your time and expertise, Meghann. It's great to know what you're doing out there. Again, next steps, reaching out to you. For craft breweries that now are saying, okay, maybe I should be focused on this, what would you suggest they kind of start in on, just as they're investigating ways to improve their kind of environmental impact?
We would love to just come. I mean, we'll come out and see your facility. I think we try and make it as easy as possible. We can even help put together some of those tracking spreadsheets. So if you want to share some of your throughput data, the electricity usage, water consumption, things like that, we can help put those together. Or if you just, we could have a phone call, whatever. We are here to make it easier for them. So, we're willing to do what would make it, what gets them to the table.
Awesome. Well, that is great. Everyone, please take advantage of this great resource. If you have any questions, feel free to add them here. But otherwise, I'm just going to say thank you so much for your time, Meghann, and for all your work on this. It's a really important issue to be working on, and it's great to have this, your office and agency supporting this in Virginia.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Give a moment to see if any questions pop up, and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good.
Hopefully everyone saw the links in the chat. We can add them to the follow-up email as well.
I meant to share them with you earlier and just I added it to my.
Oh, good. All
list.
right. Well, I'm not seeing any Q&A, so I guess we will wrap up. Again, thank you all for attending today. You will receive an email with a link to the recording. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. These resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. We do hope to see you at our next session. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.